Hello, everyone, and welcome to Think Like a Dog podcast, hosted by Andreia and Millie Travis. In this podcast, we discuss how to build the best relationship with your dog. From rescues to reactivity, we'll cover it all. Welcome back to Think Like a Dog podcast, and today we are on episode 16, and we're going to continue to answer some questions that we didn't get to in the last episode, where we'll just do question answer like last time, and Millie will give some advice off of what she reads and, the information that she's given. So we will start with the question from, I only have their Instagram handle, which is pages and...
It's either Pages and E or Page Sand. I think it could go any way, but
Pages and
probably
E.
Paige is her name.
Yes,
let's say
that
it is now Paige. Sorry, it's your name now.
All right. So this question said, have you ever deemed any dog untrainable or turned away customers for aggressive cases?
I love this question. I have never deemed a dog untrainable. I have told clients that maybe I'm not the right fit for them, or that there's no point in continuing doing training sessions if nothing is going to change at the house. I have never turned away any sort of any dog for the behavior that they're exhibiting. I have said we really shouldn't waste our time with this. Like I had I think they were both Mastiff mixes, but I can't remember if they were purebred. But last week with littermate syndrome, they were both 100 something pounds, 140 pounds, both intact males. And the guy came in and I was like, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, they're 3 years old. They're already trying to kill each other. This is going to be very, very, very difficult if you want to see change. And I would not blame you if you maybe said, I kind of don't even want to start this, because it would just be, at least a year of keeping those dogs separate. And they are massive dogs. So they would hurt somebody if you are trying to break up that fight, and they're going to kill. They're not going to just, to back each other off. They're truly going to hurt each other. So what we decided to do was just train them separately, and he was going to rehome one of them. So I am always upfront with my clients about kind of the expectation that I have of the situation. But I think in most of my first sessions, I sit down and I'm like, okay, well, what's your goal? And I can kind of tell you what my goal is, and then we can make sure that we are on the same page. But I've never turned a dog away because they weren't capable of change. I've turned humans away because they've proven to me that they were not capable of change.
Yeah. And one thing that I also, I think it's awesome that you guys do this, is that because your day camp has so many people trying to sign up and bring their dogs, and it's really high demand, you are very honest with each and every person that comes to your day camp. Like, you tell them, if you can't follow through with a structure I'm giving you, and every time your dog comes here, they're going backwards instead of...
I literally just had that conversation with a client the other day, and she had brought her dog to day camp, and we had been noticing a lot more barking lately. And I called her and I was like, this is what's going on with so-and-so. And it turns out she was also bringing the dog to another daycare, which we knew about. But our first initial session was over crate training. And she said, well, we're not really doing that anymore. We've got the initial issue, I think, which was barking, under control. So we haven't really been crate training. We haven't really been doing a ton of structure at the house, but our problem with her is solved. And I was like, you know what? That's great. That's fine. If you're happy with the relationship that you have with her, that's awesome. Then I could not want anything more for you. But we need her crate trained if she's coming to day camp. We just do. Because there are situations here where I need her to be able to relax and turn her brain off. And it is not fair for her to come in here every other week and try to learn how to be crate trained all in one day in a situation where she is normally able to play with other dogs. Like, she goes to this other daycare where she's able to play all day, every day. with every dog that she sees. And then every other week I have to teach her, okay, you come here and it's completely different than everything that you've been taught the last 2 weeks. And I told her, I was like, this isn't really fair for her to have to come in and relearn this. But if you are happy with the relationship that you have, then that's fine. She doesn't need to come here. You're still welcome to do group classes. You're still welcome to do client pack walks, but we require something different of her here. And that doesn't mean that you need to require that at home. It just means that it's not fair for her to have to learn that all here. But yeah, I am always upfront with the clients of what the expectation is of mostly them, not even the dog.
And what you guys do really well also is, even with aggressive cases, there are different ways that you work with different dogs. Like the color system is really awesome because you have green, yellow, red dogs. And each dog,
not actually green dogs. It's a color system. I've never met a green dog in my life.
And with each and every dog, they have a different structure with each dog. So when we take Rusty there, it's not like Millie said, hey, I think Rusty would do really well with the full day train, where
I actually was not the one who called that. That was Easton. I was trying to get him into day camp, and Easton worked him that first day. And she was like, I feel like day camp, this is the reason we do this. But she said, I feel like day camp isn't fair because in day camp, they are only able, they're both, all dogs are worked with 2 trainers at least, but they're out with the pack, right? With a day train, they have 1 trainer dedicated to them the entire day. So it's a lot more support, a lot more guidance for the dog. And Easton came to me and she said, I don't think it's fair to put Rusty in the day camp situation because he needs a lot more support than we're able to offer him in day camp.
And that's what I feel like each trainer, they should be able to talk to you with, what would work for you. And even if that doesn't make sense, with your lifestyle at that point, it's not fair to your dog to keep them in the same structured or the same training program that they're not really benefiting from. So I feel like that's how you guys can say, maybe this isn't the right fit for you.
I do that all the time. Yeah. So I've never turned a dog away, especially from a training session ever. Yeah. I have done things like modified the way that I enter the house, or if I enter the house, if the dog has a very long bite history, I have said things like, I absolutely am totally okay doing a session, but your dog needs to be muzzle trained and on muzzle before I walk into your home because safety is key. I've turned dogs away of, I had 3 littermate boxer puppies at 6 months old a couple weeks ago, and they were interested in day camp. And I said, that's not going to be helpful for you, right? Because you've got a lot of work that you've got to be doing at home now to prevent littermate syndrome, and also to kind of create more neutrality in these puppies. Day camp is going to be way too much, and it's not really where we need to work. So absolutely, I have said, we can't do it the way that you want to do it. But it's never been about the dog. It's always been for the dog, really.
Now, the second question that we have here for this episode is from Gina, and she said, hello, I want to say that my wife and I really love listening to your podcast. We feel like it gives us hope in a situation we thought was helpless and are implementing your suggestions. My question is, when is it okay to provide affection to your dog? I grew up with dogs and never had a reactive dog until my current rescue. I want to provide the boundaries and structure that she needs, as well as affection, petting, sharing space, etc. When is the best time to do this? I don't want to confuse her, but I do want to be able to provide affection when appropriate.
I love this question. So on the way here, this is kind of a sidetrack, but on the way here, Easton was telling me that she had a conversation with Connor. So Easton owns a dog named Obi, and we've talked about this. Obi used to be very dog reactive, and Connor used to take Obi for walks before Easton actually started training with us and when she was a client. So they had a conversation about how crazy it was that, Connor said, I can't believe I used to take Obi for walks. Like, you paid me for that. And Easton said, I don't think that you understand how big of a deal that was for us. And we sort of talked for a little while, and I said to her, I love that you still have that client perspective, because we forget a lot about, about how big of a deal it is for somebody to take, a dog on a walk, for some people. And for Easton, that was a big deal. And she said, I remember that when, and I'm going to post this later. She doesn't know that, but she said, I remember that before I ever did my first training session with you, I saw all of your videos, and I remember almost everyone was talking about how you need to, control your resources and no furniture and no, crate train and all of this stuff. And she was thinking, kind of before I ever met her in our session, maybe I'm different. Maybe I don't have to do that. And then when I came there, I said, this is all I got to offer you, because really your dog's great on a leash. It's just when when he sees a dog. She said, that was a big ask, because you were asking me to give up everything. Like, that was my entire relationship with Opie, was cuddling on the couch and sleeping in bed. I had nothing else. We didn't go on walks. We didn't have, she's been doing a lot of scent work with him, and we didn't have anything outside of our relationship but affection. Right. And it was, she understood that I was asking her that in order to create a relationship. But I never tell people, getting back to the question, I never mean that you don't ever give affection to your dog. It's that most of the time people call me because they don't like the relationship they do have with their dog. So we have to change sort of how that goes on a day-to-day basis. And I understand completely how big of an ask it is to withhold affection from your dog. But it's not necessarily, it's not a big ask of your dog. It's the big ask is you, because really you're the one that's kind of, that's making the sacrifice in that moment. Your dog is probably looking for that in a way, depending on the relationship. There's so many different kind of aspects to this, but giving affection to your dog when done in the right times can be huge for your relationship. But a lot of people go overboard because they believe that it's what the dog wants when it's not. It's really, and it might be, let's say this, it might be for the dog, but that's not why they're giving affection. They're doing it for them. They're doing it because we talked about that in the last Q&A, Poochie walks here and you pick him up because you want to hold him. It's not for them. It's for us. Now, there are times, absolutely, that you can do it, but that depends on what you're working through. If you are working through a dog who is really hyperactive and always on edge, then I would say you're going to have to limit that affection the most, because you're probably dealing with a trigger happy dog, and affection is going to send that dog right up into an intensity level 12, right? But if you're dealing with a dog who maybe you're just focusing on owning space. So what we did with Bubbles and Max in day camp, and I call you in and then I can pet you and then send you away and call your brother in, pet him, send him away, making sure there's no fights, then that would be great. But it's just, you don't want to be constantly overloading your dog with affection. And I see it every single session. Somebody walks in and they are, from the moment they sit down, petting their dog without even thinking about it. And not even registering what state of mind that dog is in. So if your dog is in a calm and collected state of mind, absolutely give some affection, while still realizing that to the dog, you already gave it by getting them into that calm state of mind. The affection part, that's your reward, not theirs.
A great example of this is Sue, our Best Chance program dog. And she spent, how many weeks did she spend with Connor? Was it about 3 weeks?
It's 30 days. Well,
it was 30.
I had her for a week. So yeah.
So it was about, about 3 straight weeks that she was with him consistently. Mm-hmm. And Connor, his main goal with Sue is to get her to a point where she is easily adoptable. Like, she can fit into any household. So he really was like, his whole mindset is, I have to train this dog. And the only thing he did for her was give her direction the whole time. I mean, Connor, when you give him a task, or he's going to
knocks it out of the park.
He's going to take it to the, he's going to follow directions to the T. And his goal with a Best Chance program is to get these dogs as prepped as possible for a new home. So he's taking it very seriously.
Too seriously.
So yeah. And Connor is, the only thing he did with Sue the whole time they were together is give her structure, give her boundaries. No bed, no couch, absolutely not. He has roommates. The roommates weren't allowed to play with her.
Roommates were not happy about that.
So she was, receiving boundaries. She was learning plays. She was going to day camp all the time with him. I mean, if you really tell somebody like, oh my God, I mean, she must be, miserable. Like she must not like that whole thing. Sue became obsessed with Connor.
Yeah, we actually had to, it was probably good that she came to stay with me for a week because I mean, what you're saying is the more boundaries that Sue was given, the more she wanted to be, or at least follow Connor's lead, right? Yes. It was Connor represented safety to her then. So she didn't have to make the decisions. And this dog goes bonkers when she sees Connor. And there's a lot of dogs that do that. Weirdly, specifically for Connor. But I think it's because Connor takes things very seriously. And he's very good about a clean relationship with a dog. So he tends to get dogs that glue to him then.
Yeah.
And then we have to kind of backtrack, but it's fine. It's fine.
But with Sue, it's awesome to see that because he gave her such a good structure, boundaries, day camp, everything is being done this way. And most people think if I do this to my dog, they're not going to be happy. They're going to be, they're going to feel like I don't love them as much. I'm not going to give them the love and affection that they crave so much because that's what's in our heads. But that's what dogs want, is to feel safe, to feel like the human that's right there leading them is giving them direction. Sue was the dog. The first day we found her, she was afraid of everything. I couldn't raise my hand that she would just curl on the floor. And I couldn't make sudden movements that she would just curl down and she would try to run away from me. And after she was with Connor receiving the structure, she became so confident and she was consistently looking at him specifically for direction.
Oh, yeah.
So that relationship he created with her was a trainer that is training a dog, teaching her boundaries, and yet she loved every moment of it. It was all affection for her because she loved the direction he was giving her.
Yeah.
And if, in our minds, we're thinking affection as love, hugs, kisses, pets, cuddles, and we don't think as, okay, if I teach my dog to be calm, that's a really big reward for them too when they learn that feeling of calm.
Yeah.
And I think that in this case, with Sue and Connor, that proved our whole point of this is we take her to day camp and she loved every time she sees Connor.
She doesn't care about me or you when
she can see him in the middle of a crowd. She would see Connor and she would go straight to Connor.
I bet when she closes her eyes, she sees Connor too. There's like I said, there are dogs that are just, they glue to him because he takes that relationship so seriously. I take it not even as seriously as he does, but I don't get dogs that glue to me like he does. I don't take it very seriously because it's just constant with me, right? But Connor's never owned a dog, so he's still in this very clean phase with the relationships that he creates. But he gets this dog. I mean, these dogs who are just, they would do anything that he said. Anything. Maybe he's creating an army. Oh no.
An army of dogs who are all on his side and will only listen to Connor. I just
realized maybe he's doing this on purpose.
And another add-on too is in a previous episode you talked about like the balance, like a scale, looking at it like a scale. And, in this case, you're saying, I want to know how to balance this, not to confuse her like I'm turning her away or if I'm telling her she's doing something wrong because she can't sit on the couch. It's like how many healthy behaviors are you practicing, and then how much of that can you add on, like the allowing them to sit on the couch next to you.
Have you earned it?
Yes,
is the way that I look at it. Like, salad, dinner, dessert. Did I eat my salad? Did I finish my dinner? If you're a kid, right? Have I earned the dessert, or did I exercise? Have I been taking care of myself? Have I earned this? Because at the end of the day, the affection is for you. So it's not that you don't do it. It's how are you doing it? When are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And what state of mind is your dog in while you're doing it? Because if you're doing it to try to comfort or console your dog in a stressful situation, then that's not necessarily there's going to be a miscommunication that's going to get lost in translation from human to dog. If you're doing it because you're not even thinking about it, then that's something you need to be more aware of. But it's why are you doing it? What have you earned it? And what state of mind is your dog in while you're doing it?
And now with the next question, we have from Tara from Vancouver, Canada. And she said, "Hello, Andrea and Millie. I just discovered your podcast and I'm so glad I did. It's awesome and I have already learned a lot. I hope you can keep going and publish more episodes. I am sure having a regular podcast is a lot of work. I have a miniature poodle. He's fearful and reactive. My previous dog was so easy and calm and relaxed. So this has really thrown me for a loop. I am so hoping you might cover some strategies for leash walking and barking at people and dogs. Real fearful barking, not just woof woof hello barking. I understand now that it starts in the home. I will listen to your podcast again and listen for specific strategies I can use. And I just want to say thank you, and I will be listening to your show." That's really sweet.
I know, that's really sweet. Yeah.
I love that message.
Yeah.
Just like it is a lot of work, but it's like the message that we put out there is what we felt like wasn't out there. Like we wanted to share honest information from two different perspectives and, help people prep for a dog, help their relationship with their current dog, like that's the payoff that we get from this, is knowing that we're putting this information out there, and there's people like this that's really like, oh my God, I'm so glad this is here, because that's what I really wanted.
One thing that you and I are really similar about is that we don't like to sugarcoat things. So with the Best Chance foster dogs, we will tell you up front, this dog is really hyper. It might not be the right fit for you, or no kids, no cats, no whatever. We're not going to hide anything about the personality of this dog in order to get them into a home. I'm also not going to make any training advice I give kind of broken down into bite-sized pieces so you feel better about it. My job is to make sure that the dog feels better. And I think that there's a lot of training advice that you can go online, and people are going to be more apt to do that because it makes them feel better. The type of training that I want to talk about is the training that makes the dog feel better. I absolutely care about the human, but what's important is the dog. So I think a lot of purely positive training is, look, all you have to do is this and this, and you can feel good about it. You don't have to worry about how your relationship with your dog. You can have everything you want and your dog will be happy. And I just don't feel like it's that easy. It's not, because it doesn't work. I've seen it. I've gotten those dogs coming to me after they've gone to those trainers. So then that doesn't necessarily mean that I've always been able to fix the problem or that I'm the right trainer for those people either. But I think, yes, it is a lot of work because there's a lot of different opinions out there when it comes to dog training, but we wanted to talk about something that we didn't really see a lot out there, which is the work that the human has to do to actually make a different relationship.
Yes, absolutely. And that's why I love having, questions come in like this that really throws in the compliments.
Definitely keep complimenting us. It's really important. But to answer her question, after we talked about how nice she is for a little while, first thing I'm going to look at is, what does the walk look like when we aren't around people or dogs? Are we walking right by our side, or is the dog leading? Is the dog smelling over here and doing whatever it wants? Is the dog hyper vigilant the entire walk, even when there aren't people? Meaning, is the dog constantly looking for stimuli, constantly looking for, around every corner, where's another person, where's another dog, and then pops off every time it sees one? My first goal is going to be, can you get that dog to walk right next to your side without people or other dogs? Is that the basis of your walk? Is that your default walk? And if not, then that's where we need to work. I think we talked about this, I think it was the last episode, but my strategy for dealing with a dog who is reacting on the leash walk is be the energy I want my dog to be. So I'm going to look ahead. I'm going to, chin up, shoulders back, and I am going to just continue to move. I make sure, I would ask this person, do you greet other people and dogs, or did your puppy, or when your dog was a puppy, did you have a lot of greeting and other people and dogs on the walk? And that sort of kind of created this expectation of this dog to be able to almost be on guard for when it sees another person or another dog, because normally they have to sort of interact. Obviously, I'm not saying that you avoid, but work where you need to work. So whether that's a parking lot, your driveway, and then once you get success there, then move up to like your next level distraction, a park on a Tuesday where it's not crazy busy. But your goal is to make sure you are leading that walk. That's extremely important, whether there's a person or another dog around or not. If it's nobody is around, it's just you guys, you are still the leader of that walk.
Awesome. Well, and then we're going to move on to the next question. We want to get through a few more before this episode ends. And this one is from Lisa. She said, "Hello, I recently found your podcast on TikTok. It's been very helpful. I'm so grateful that the focus is on reactivity and shelter dogs without only showing the negative side. I'm wondering how you would go about improving a reactive dog's behavior when one parent is more active and structured with implementing training. My boyfriend and I are complete opposites in every way. Usually it's not a big deal until we adopted our reactive pup. Now it's very one-sided. I exercise our dog, Rev, more, feed him, spend more time with him, train him. This is obviously causing some issues with owner aggression towards him. Please help. Feel free to use the topic for your podcast. I'm hoping I'm not the only one dealing with this."
You are not the only one dealing with this. This is probably one of the top 10 common questions that I get is, well, does my husband have to also do the exact same things and we have to use the exact same words? It's a lot. There's a lot of people that are, my friend Ridge, who's an amazing dog trainer. He describes it as, you know, you don't all have to be rowing in the same direction, but just make sure they're not rowing against you. That's where it really kind of, it can be difficult, not only for the people in the house, but for the dog as well. So let's say your boyfriend or whatever really enjoys their relationship with the dog and they don't want anything to change, then they don't have to, but they can't be purposefully kind of rowing against you. Right. So, if you walk into the room and your dog is on the couch and you really want to kind of focus on more structure, then you tell your dog off and you tell your boyfriend, hey, when I'm not in the room, you do whatever. But if I'm in the room, I really want my relationship with the dog to be different. So I'm going to start behaving differently. But it's not like a to each their own kind of thing, because obviously it is best if the dog got kind of this cohesive advice or cohesive kind of unit from the family, but it doesn't have to be uniform throughout. I do think if your boyfriend is dealing with the dog biting him, then that's a real issue, right? I mean, I would kind of be more interested in knowing, okay, well, what are the opposites? So I know that you said you want to be more active and structured with implementing training, but the dog is biting your boyfriend. I would want to know why, in what situations, what is that, what's happening there? Because a lot of times I could also hear that and I'd think, is this dog claiming mom? Right? That's kind of where I'm going in that. But I also don't know. We want to do a podcast where it's almost, we have a client on the phone and we sort of do like a virtual a podcast or a consult, and be able to do kind of question and answer there. It's difficult when it comes to reactivity because I don't want to give advice that I don't know the dog. But yeah, for when you're dealing with a partner who's not on board, try to talk to them and find a middle ground. You don't want them rowing against you, but you can't control everything. And all you can do is control your relationship with your dog and try to have some sort of middle ground with the people in your home.
Yeah. I mean, I do with this too. It's like in different ways. Like we believe in different things, where Ozzy, he handles the dogs a certain way. I'm a little bit more careful. And it's like finding the middle ground where that your partner, like they don't really need to be just like you when it comes to the training, right, but at least avoid doing some of the stuff that really triggers that dog or it takes a lot of big step backwards. You know, I feel like we go in a walk, like Ozzy knows how to use the lead, knows how to use the loop. And then when it comes to affection, he wants to give all the dogs affection all together all the time. And that's where it was one of the things that we really had to work through with our dogs, is like teaching them how to learn not to come towards us to get affection all at once, because we have multiple dogs. So you taught them how to wait, and then we call them in, and that was a big thing that they learned that helped with that. But I feel like it's it's just balance. I think it goes back to that scale, looking at the scale too, like how many healthy behaviors are you really practicing with your dog? And then can it really balance off if there's some unhealthy behaviors or the behaviors that you don't really want to keep having them do? How does that balance?
Yeah.
How do you and your boyfriend balance each other?
I mean, I already said it, but if you want to change your relationship with your dog, then you change it. But if your partner does not, then they can't. I don't think it's fair for your partner to say, I like my relationship with the dog, so you can't change your relationship with the dog. That's not fair. That's not okay. I do think that there can be some confusion when it comes to like the use of tools. So if one partner walks them on a harness and the other one does the loop, that can be a lot for the dog. Or one partner says they can sleep in bed and then the other one wants them in the crate. Obviously you're going to have some sort of middle ground, or you're going to have a crate in your bed. But it really is making sure that you sit down, you talk to your partner, you say, okay, what are my boundaries? What are my goals? And then you find out the other person's boundaries of, I am absolutely unwilling to use the loop, or I am unwilling to put them in the crate at night. And then you figure that out from there. Right. But it's a conversation that needs to be had. I'd be very interested to do a virtual consult with this person. To figure out the why this dog is biting her boyfriend. But I do think in an ideal world, everyone's on the same page. But dogs live with kids, dogs live with toddlers, dogs live with grandmas, and not everybody's always going to be on the same page. It's just important that you're not rowing against each other.
Now the next one is from KB, and this one is. It says, hi, I have been listening to the podcast, which was recommended to me by my trainer friend, Instagram handle, Taming the Canine.
That's a cool name.
I do like that.
Yeah. We're changing our podcast name to Taming. I'm just kidding.
This morning I finished episode 5 and I just started episode 6. I have 2 questions. Jumping. I've been fostering a puppy from APBF's Operation Sidekick program. If you're not already familiar, it is the American Pit Bull Foundation's Operation Sidekick program rescues, raises and trains pit bull type dogs as service dogs for veterans living with PTSD. So cool.
That is really cool.
Utilizing a discarded population to help an underserved population.
Oh.
I love that.
That made me want to cry.
That is so cool.
That's very cool.
Sidekick Jade is about 10 months old now. She's a jumper. She jumps on people. She jumps on fences. She just jumps for the sake of jumping, like she's on springs. Her vertical would be the envy of any NBA scout. I've taken your advice about stepping into her space when she jumps so as to reclaim my space. That has worked, sort of. Now she only jumps on me when she's behind me. I cannot see that coming because unlike mothers of humans, I do not in fact have eyes in the back of my head. So I cannot step backwards into her space. What would you suggest for eliminating the naughty behavior of jumping on me from behind? And now the second part of this is, she said, I understand you are exploring a foster program. Do your fosters have to be local to your area in Georgia? I'm located in North Carolina. I'm not in a position to take on a new foster right now, but I'm always on the lookout for foster programs that I can get behind. Based on what I heard this morning, I love what you're doing, and I could totally get behind that.
Do you want to answer the second one, and then I'll answer the first?
Yeah. So thank you so much for really backing what we're doing with the Best Chance program. And for those who haven't heard before, the Best Chance program we started with Mirror Image Canine, Ozzy Albies Foundation, where we pull dogs from shelters, from different, homing situations. Maybe the owner can't keep them, whatever it is, how that dog came to us. We bring them on and they spend 30 days with the Mirror Image Canine team, working with different trainers, going to day camp, really getting an opportunity to decompress, to learn structure, so we're able to slow down the adoption process just a little bit so we can learn a little bit more about that dog and help give them their best chance. Our whole goal with this program is to get them into the perfect home and to help the people that adopt this dog, the family that brings them into their life, to have a really successful adoption where they're given support. They're given all the information they need from this dog. They know everything about this dog. And, we're really helping them go into this new home with already some structure where the new family can just keep building on. So we really love this program and the dogs that we've worked with so far. We have some adoptable dogs from the program that's on our website, Aussie Albies Foundation. You can apply there. It's an adoption application. It's very easy to go through. And all of the updates on our dogs are on Mirror Image Canine Instagram page and also on Aussie Albies Foundation. So again, thank you so much for mentioning that. That means a lot. But with our fosters, we do want them to be local to Georgia right now because we are, just getting started with the program. We want to be able to schedule a meet and greet with a possible family if that's necessary. Take them to vet appointments if that becomes an issue. We have to kind of have you here available to meet with us throughout that period of time that you're fostering. But in the future, we do plan to really get more opportunities to pull dogs from different regions. They work with Mirror Image for a while. If you're really, if you're vetted into the foster program and we can really work with you, having them go to areas that are not extremely far would be absolutely a possibility where we could even have them get even more applications because that would help open doors to areas in your, to applications in your area too. So with your support, with everyone listening, if you support this program, we can continue to grow and build and become bigger to where we can get to this point.
Absolutely. We would love that. But yeah, we're 2 dogs in, 3 if you count Rusty at this point. So give us some time, but absolutely. We would love to be able to spread the foster program way further. So Jade, 10 months old, jumping on people, fences, hopefully not over fences, and then just jumping for the sake of jumping. So now that she's jumping on your back, obviously you cannot step into her. You've got 2 options. One, you turn around and you walk into her until she yields. And that can look really different based on the dog. That can be the dog kind of sitting down and looking up at you. That can be the dog turning around and walking away, or that could even just be her getting her paws off of you, but just moving into her, turning around and walking into her until she sort of kind of yields in some sort of way. The other option is a leash. So making sure that she is leashed from when you're around her, so you can use that to add pressure on and pressure off when you feel like the spatial pressure isn't something that you can give because she's constantly behind you now. But she sounds smart.
She figured it out.
Yeah,
she was like, okay,
did.
This is how I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I feel like it's like when they jump, it doesn't have to be like immediate reaction, step into her. You can get a few seconds to like turn
Absolutely.
around.
Yeah.
Then she'll still grasp that, that the message behind that of you walking into her space.
Yeah.
Right?
If Kemper's doing something in the corner that I don't want him to do, I can absolutely still like get up and walk into him across the room. Even if it's going to take me 30 seconds to get there, it's still addressing the behavior. Absolutely.
Okay. Now with jumping, with her being like such a jumper and jumping on people, jumping on fences, would it be just like always keep the leash on her until she gets away from that behavior? Because if she's outside and she's jumping on the fences and she's jumping on everything, is it where you walk her outside, potty break on the leash, back inside, like super strict leash work from there?
It depends. So, if she's jumping on fences, like trying to get over them, then yes, absolutely, because that's a safety issue. But yeah, I would change the association for what it means to be out of her kennel. My guess is that she's just a very, very, very excited dog. And we would focus on just kind of how to get a little bit more of a neutral mindset. That's really important, especially she's 10 months old too. So, one big thing would be making sure that you're not talking to her a lot. You're not creating the excitement when you first see her. You're not, baby talking, high pitched talking, because a lot of times I get people who say my dog is nonstop jumping on me. And I say, well, what does it look like on your end when you get home? And it's people just going wild. I mean, bonkers when they see their dog after a day of work, and then we wonder why our dog is jumping on us.
Yeah.
We started it in that moment. So try to stay as neutral and as calm as possible. And it sounds like you're probably doing that, especially if you've, got friends in the training industry as well. So I think address it as much as possible. Prevent it is the key here. But absolutely, I mean, you can turn around and walk into them, but Alicia's going to be your best friend in this moment.
Cool. And now with her, with this question, I feel like we got to lots of questions. We still have some more that we want to get through. We just don't have enough time, or else this would be like a 3-hour long episode.
We have so many more questions. Yeah.
So we're going to keep doing these, even if we just add on at the end of the episode, but we love to receive your questions. So if you would like to send additional questions, send it to info@thinklikeadogpodcast.com. That's the best way to do it. This way, go straight to our email. We're able to add them straight to our notes, and then we don't really have to look for them through comments or direct messages and stuff. So
if you want your question answered on the podcast, please send it to the email.
Yes. And then if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure to leave us a review. And, that will mean the world to us. We're going to start highlighting reviews at the end of every episode just to show our appreciation. We really do love reading your reviews. So if you enjoy this episode, previous episodes, please take some time to leave us a review on Apple or a rating on Spotify. And, I feel like we covered a lot today.
Yeah,
so
a lot of different topics.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, and don't forget,
practice makes progress. Make sure to follow us on Instagram @Think Like a Dog Podcast and follow @MirrorImageCanine for training tips. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via email at info@thinklikeadogpodcast.com.